Alejandro Garnacho is the perfect example of everything Cristiano Ronaldo described before leaving Manchester United.
You listen from one side and they go away for another side.
In the next 18 months, that same player managed to become a Manchester United starter and the most hated face the club has ever seen. This is not a story about a player who was bad. This is a story about a player who was rewarded for the best goal of the year. Cast your mind back to 2022. Manchester United were struggling. The club was in transition. Marcus Rashford was going through one of the worst runs of his career, 4 goals and 2 assists in 25 games. And the attack was crying out for someone, anyone, to inject some life into it. And then, almost out of nowhere, this kid appeared. Raw, reckless, and frighteningly fast. Alejandro Garnacho didn't ask for his chance, he forced it. He made himself impossible to ignore. Under Ralf Rangnick, he got his first minutes in professional football, and what stood out immediately wasn't just his speed, it was the chaos he brought, the unpredictability. In a modern game increasingly dominated by systems and structure, here was a player who played on pure instinct. He was unpolished, unstructured, and utterly irresistible to watch. His biggest strength in those early days was simple: he had nothing to lose. He played with zero responsibility and all the freedom in the world. He pressed defenders into mistakes, he ran at people without hesitation, and he made the attack feel alive again. United fans hadn't felt that buzz from a winger in years, and for a brief, beautiful moment, everything felt like it was pointing toward something special. Then Erik ten Hag arrived, and the first test of Garnacho's character came almost immediately, and he failed it, repeatedly late to preseason training, excluded from friendly matches as a consequence. For a teenager trying to break into one of the biggest clubs in the world, this was not just unprofessional. It was a warning sign, because discipline problems at 19 don't disappear on their own, they grow. But Garnacho apologized, he was reintegrated, and slowly he began to show the world what he was capable of. His first senior goal, assisted by Cristiano Ronaldo himself, was met with Garnacho mimicking Ronaldo's iconic celebration, and in that moment it felt symbolic, like a torch being passed, like a young player genuinely in awe of the man he wanted to become. And then, just 10 days later, he scored a 93rd minute winner, a match that was heading for a draw, and Garnacho appeared, as if from nowhere, to win it. That goal wasn't just 3 points, it was a statement. This wasn't just a talented kid, this was a match winner. Throughout that first full season, 3 of his 5 goals came in stoppage time in Premier League matches. Against Fulham, against Leeds, against Wolves, the goals came when the pressure was highest, when most young players would have shied away. Garnacho ran toward those moments, he thrived in them, and with every goal, the Stretford end fell deeper in love with him. They replaced their chant of Viva Ronaldo with Viva Garnacho. The succession felt real. Then came November 2023, Goodison Park, a moment that happens perhaps once in a decade in football. Garnacho, with his back to goal, the ball dropping over his shoulders, threw himself into a bicycle kick and connected with it perfectly. It flew into the net, the stadium fell silent. His teammates couldn't believe what they'd just seen. Nobody could. It was the kind of goal that defines careers, the kind of goal that gets played on highlight reels forever. And in 2024, the world officially recognized it. Alejandro Garnacho won the FIFA Puskas Award, given to the most beautiful goal scored anywhere on the planet that year. He was 20 years old. In a season where Manchester United finished an embarrassing 8th, Garnacho scored 10 goals. He was one of the only bright spots in a miserable campaign. And with the Puskas Award in his hands and the adoration of millions surrounding him, Garnacho stood at a crossroads. He could have used that moment as fuel, the way Ronaldo used every individual award as motivation to work even harder, to prove it wasn't a fluke, to build on it relentlessly. Instead, Garnacho made a different choice. Whether he was fully aware of it or not, he began to believe that the hard work was already done. This is the part of the story where Ronaldo's warning becomes impossible to ignore, because Ronaldo's entire career, from winning his first Ballon d'Or to his second, to becoming the most decorated individual winner in football history, was built on one principle: the award is never the destination, it's the beginning of a new challenge. Every trophy, every recognition, every moment of glory was simply proof of what was possible if you kept working. Ronaldo never coasted, he never assumed his talent was enough. He outtrained everyone around him, because he understood that in football, the moment you stop improving, someone else is already overtaking you. Garnacho had idolized Ronaldo, he had worn his number 7 jersey in training, he had copied his celebration, but he hadn't copied the thing that actually mattered: the obsession, the humility, the daily commitment to being better than yesterday. And when Ruben Amorim arrived as Manchester United manager, bringing with him one of the most tactically demanding systems in European football, Garnacho was completely unprepared for what that would require of him. Amorim's system is not for passengers. It demands every player to track back, to defend from the front, to follow instructions precisely and without question. It requires a winger to be as diligent without the ball as they are dangerous with it. And Garnacho, a player who had always thrived on freedom, on instinct, on doing things his way, could not or would not adapt. His finishing became inconsistent. His defensive work was practically non-existent. Opposition teams quickly identified his flank as a weakness and targeted it relentlessly. Attacks came through him, goals were conceded because of him. And while all of that might have been workable if Garnacho had shown the willingness to learn, what made it unworkable was his attitude, because instead of working harder to earn his place, Garnacho doubled down. Instead of listening, he tuned out, and in December 2024, during a match against Plzen, it all came to a head. Amorim gave him instructions. Garnacho refused to follow them. In front of his teammates in the middle of a match, he defied his manager. It was an act of disrespect so blatant that it could not be overlooked or forgiven quietly. He was permanently benched. He missed the Manchester derby, and even as senior players, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, Harry Maguire, pulled him aside and told him directly to check his ego and focus on the team, he couldn't hear them, or wouldn't. Then it got worse. Far worse. Accusations emerged that Garnacho and his brother had been leaking confidential dressing room information to social media. The trust between a player and a club is built over years and can be destroyed in seconds. If those accusations were true, Garnacho had done exactly that. His brother made public claims about Garnacho potentially taking Ronaldo's iconic number 7 shirt at Old Trafford, an act of arrogance so misguided it only deepened the frustration of fans and staff alike. And then came the moment that signals true rejection in football. Fans stopped chanting his name. He became known in certain corners as Subject 49, a cold, clinical erasure of identity, a signal that the relationship between player and club had broken beyond repair. In the modern game, at the highest level, that kind of rejection is rare, and it doesn't happen to players who are simply going through a rough patch. It happens to players who have lost the crowd's belief entirely.
They have to fight for the place in the team.
Where do you see the promise in the squad? Like, you look at their squad now, you look at Garnacho.
They don't depend only of the talent. It's more than that. Don't surprise me, but in the same way, it's a little bit shame.
In the summer of 2025, Manchester United sold Alejandro Garnacho to Chelsea for £45 million, a significant fee, a genuine second chance. And under Enzo Maresca, Garnacho was given every opportunity to rebuild. Maresca believed in him. He gave him starts, gave him time, gave him the grace period that a player arriving in a new environment deserves. And Garnacho wasted it. By the 1st of January 2026, he had played 17 Premier League games and scored just 1 goal. 1. For £45 million, in a league he already knew, for a club desperate for him to succeed. Marcus Rashford had faced a similar crossroads and responded, found a new club, rediscovered his hunger, rebuilt his career. Garnacho, handed the exact same opportunity, could not do the same. When Maresca departed and Liam Rosenyor took charge of Chelsea, the situation worsened again. Because Rosenyor operates with iron discipline, he restored order to a dressing room that had become chaotic. He reduced recklessness. He built a culture around collective commitment. And in that kind of environment, a player with attitude problems does not thrive. Garnacho's playing time shrank. He was mostly benched. Rosenyor's system, built around midfield control and operating with a single winger, offered limited opportunity for a player who had still not proven he could put the team first. The parallel with Kobbie Mainoo was impossible to miss. Mainoo had faced his own tactical challenges, but Mainoo responded. He knuckled down, performed when given chances, and began to earn his way back into relevance. It proved that the system wasn't the enemy. The attitude was.
Part of a career is a few ups and downs, and sometimes it goes in different trajectories, but I think we've seen last week what Kobbie can bring.
But football never writes anyone off completely. And when Michael Carrick arrived, something shifted. Because Carrick, who had spent his entire coaching career learning from some of the game's greatest managers, understood something fundamental. The best coaches don't force players into systems. They build systems around players. So where does that leave us? What is the final verdict on Alejandro Garnacho? He is 21 years old. He has a Puskas Award. He has match-winning goals at the highest level etched into Premier League history. He has pace that most defenders in the world still cannot handle. He has ability that most footballers will never possess. None of that has gone anywhere. But he also has a reputation that has been damaged at 2 clubs, with managers, with teammates, with fans. He has bridges burned that may never be fully rebuilt. He has proven repeatedly that when the moment demanded humility and hard work, he chose ego instead. Cristiano Ronaldo gave the warning. Every day he spent at Manchester United, he gave it. He showed everyone around him that greatness is not a moment, it is a daily decision.
It is the choice to stay late when you could leave early, to listen when you want to argue, to put the team before yourself when everything in you wants recognition. Garnacho idolized Ronaldo. He copied the celebration, the hairstyle, the aesthetics, but he missed the soul of it entirely. The question now is whether he can hear the warning before it is too late, because at 21, the door has not closed. But in football, these windows do not stay open forever. The talent is still there. The potential is still there. But potential without humility is just wasted ability. And wasted ability, in the end, is the saddest story football has to tell. The choice, Garnacho, is yours.